ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Rise Urban Nation. It's your host, Taryell. I'm in the building, and we got a special guest in the building with us today. And I got to give a big shout out to my dear friends, Rachel and Raul, for just getting us connected to our dear brother, Anayo. I love enunciating, some Nigerian names like that. So for the people listening, you gotta tell them what does your name mean? Because Nigerian names always have some type of meaning to them.
It's funny you say that because growing up as a kid, they murdered me. Like my name, I used to wear the traditional outfits in school. I didn't want to wear them. My dad would be like, "No, you got to represent. You got to wear them." Like, Dad, this is not a good look for me. They're gonna kill me when I get to school. And it was like I guess, that pride of where you're from. And then my mom was just like, whatever, because she's from America. My dad's from Nigeria. But then trying to keep that culture alive, keep that
Mm-hmm.
tradition, and bring it over into a foreign place. But the name Anayo means to beg Jehovah or ask God. And a lot of, as you said, the Nigerian names have some type of meaning or have proverbs of words of wisdom or whatnot. So, but it comes along with some other stuff too that can get complicated. But yeah, after a while, I convinced my father not to make me wear the traditional outfits. Now, these like now in time that would be dope. People would be like, "Oh, that's a good look." Back
Yeah,
then, man, they were throwing rocks. They were trying to come for you.
I know, right? Like I was just thinking that I was like, man, back in the day, I used to hate wearing my Nigerian outfits just because of how people would clown you. But now it's the wave. Like everybody trying to get a Nigerian outfit and be be
Yeah.
about the culture. So
So you're
my
half new, right?
yeah, so my mom, same thing. My mom is American from New York, but my dad's Nigerian. My Nigerian name is Adekunle, which is wealth is around you. And so I resonate with everything you just said. So I was like, oh,
I like that. So
this
we
my
cousins.
brother.
We cousins. We didn't even know it.
Yeah,
We
we
cousins didn't know.
cousins and didn't even know it. So
I like it.
Anayo, for the people who don't know who you are and the amazing things you've built, um, let's start here. Who is Anayo? Before we get into the other things, who are you? I know that's a deep question, but you can take that as far and as wide as you want to go. Who are you?
I like that. I like it because like I feel like we got connected with such genuine, authentic people, and I feel like the people you're around say a lot about you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can show me your five closest friends, that's gonna at least tell me a little bit about you. I can't say it's gonna be dead on. And
Yeah.
so we connected with very positive people that are authentic, that are selfless, that are just about creating, solving problems, and looking to do more than something for just themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
a small definition that would describe me in one word would probably be love of who I am. And that's what I try to put myself out. Everything I do, as far as my intent, my vision, or my ideas, or my thought process, the foundation is definitely love. I don't
Mm,
believe good intentions always gets good results. On the flip side, I consider myself optimist, very positive in the sense where I look for the good in other people and I look to take maybe obstacles, adversities, and challenges and turn those into opportunity. And not just opportunity
ooh,
for myself. I believe there's more happiness in giving than there is in receiving. So when I talk about opportunity, I look at someone based on how much opportunity or how much has that person done for someone else, then themselves, how
man,
much opportunity they created for other people. So, in a
man,
nutshell, Nile could be summed up as family, friends, love, food, music, happiness,
man.
joy, good time, and just good energy, vibrations. I believe in vibrations, I believe in energy. And so I like to, they say the strongest vibration or frequency is a truth. So I like to
Mm.
consider myself a truth speaker and a seeker.
Ooh, I love all of that. And now speaking of love and truth, I feel that you've made a career for yourself, building things in the foundation of love and truth. So tell the people. I don't even know how to just if I feel like sometimes you might be cross industries. Tell people the industry you're in and the thing, or I don't know which things you want to talk about you've created, but the main thing and it was whatever is derived from creating that thing.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I can't like take in such a powerful question without asking if you had to describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
Ooh. In one word, energy. Um,
Ooh,
energy
okay,
is
we
my
see you.
yeah, energy is my word because every time that I go into spaces, people say that man, your energy is just infectious. You just bring a certain energy, and I didn't realize when I was younger, but I had this ability to also uh just feel energy, like people's energy, and sometimes I would take on that energy, right? And I learned that as I got older. So energy is my word. Um, and I like to use energy to transform spaces and just create a vibe sometimes, depending on what that space calls for. And sometimes I like to tap into energy,
I like
uh, to help me um transform my life and the life of others.
I like that. I want to thank you for creating this platform honestly, because from the very beginning, you're like, we're going to go off the cuff. It's going to be authentic. It's going to be organic. It's going to be original. And that to me is pure energy. And you've created this for countless people to be able to hear into what's really going on and have a like kind of a finger on the pulse of the reality of that. So that energy is infectious and it's vibrant. And good energy never gets old. Keep it 100. Like being around
Mm,
someone like yourself that just can walk in the room and light the room up. Not everybody can do that. It's always
yeah.
nice having someone in your team or your tribe that has that quality or that gift.
Yeah, thank you. I received that, and I appreciate that. And just like you, I just want to, I want to tap into the energy of love and healing and co-creation and sharing. Like I remember one of my friends told me, he's like, man, you the only person I know go into a room full of strangers and come out with 20 friends. And I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, I like to get to know people, and I want people to have a good time. And it's like you have something to learn from everybody. Everybody has a story.
that's true. That's true. And it's having that attitude. I feel like having the right mindset or attitude is so important and can open up so many doors, especially when you're humble and you go in with the right attitude and you're not pretentious and you're a little bit vulnerable, maybe, or you're authentic.
Hmm.
That opens up doors that normally wouldn't open up to create conversations that some may never have, or these conversations we've been wanting to have, but then we kind of
Hmm.
shied away from having.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel like those conversations are what help transform us and help us, like really see through a different lens and change perspective. So, you know, it's each of these experiences that I have and interactions with people that help transform my lens, my way of thinking, my the energies that I give off or try to tap into when I go into those new experiences. So when I think about that, I'm grateful for each and every person that I meet that helps share a piece of that. When you think back to a time that you felt transformed, um how did you change and why? Is the thing that's coming and resonating with me right now.
I like it, and so we're gonna hop in and just getting deep and just oh man, super real. That transformation came from me. So I was married for 10 years to a beautiful Canadian girl. She's half Trinidadian and half Portuguese.
Mm,
So we visit her family in Portugal. I'm from Seattle. We go across the border and hang out in Vancouver, Canada. For those of you who haven't been to Vancouver, Canada, for those of you who haven't been to Portugal, those are two places that I highly recommend that you visit. And it was like a storybook, man. Her family, they were cool. It was a good vibe. Um, I didn't think I believed in love at first sight, but I feel like there's this energy when you meet someone that there's this connection. We had that connection. She was very humble. She had been through some adversity, some obstacles, some trials early on in life. And I feel like I can relate to that. People that have been through challenging times in their life for whatever reason. I don't know if it's my father coming over from Nigeria to make the best of what he had and creating so much for so many different people and the struggle. There's something about the struggle itself that creates something that I'm just attracted to. And she had
mm,
that. But even though she had her problems, even though she had her insecurities, and things she went through, she didn't use those as excuses to become a negative person, to become a disrespectful person. She was always optimistic, and she was always looking for the good in people. So that journey lasted about 10 years that we were in a good relationship together. And long story short, she ended up homeless. We found out that she had paranoid schizophrenia. So the reason I bring that up,
Mm,
that's one of the most powerful moments for me that I had to change not only who I was as a mental person, but a physical. The most
mm,
important thing to me was her, and losing that piece of me. Like I felt like I lost half of myself. I had to figure out how to build back up again and become whole.
mm. So in that journey, what did you start to do to, build yourself back up again and become whole? What was that process like?
Great question. Great question. It's very humbling, to say the least. It's like you hear stories of people that may lose someone, through death, or there may be a separation or a breakup after a long period of time. And the foundation for me to restore and to rebuild again and get creative, and I don't like to say to anyone, get back to your old self. How about creating a new you? We're evolving constantly. So
Mm,
for me personally, I always want to be evolving into something new and something better, not the old. And so for me, that
mhm,
meant family, friends, that meant more prayers, and just relying, knowing that there's hope, that there's going to be a brighter day tomorrow. There's hope that things will work
mhm,
out. And a lot of times, some of the most life changing obstacles or adversity can also resurrect to bring out something new and something bright. For me, that helped me be more creative. That helped me be more empathetic, sympathetic on that journey. I met hundreds of homeless people. They all had different
mm,
stories, and you learn from each individual you connect with. And to me, that made me a better person overall to connect with what's really going on in the universe or the world, because we might see
mhm,
different ones as we're driving at a stoplight or on the side, or maybe they're holding a sign, or maybe they're just on the street. um, and those are people's families. There's people, daughters, sons, mothers, and some of those people were
mhm,
business owners. Some of them had companies. Some of
mm,
them, all different walks of life. So it just gave me a really good perspective of
mhm.
a good reason to always stay humble. You never know where you're going to be in any situation in life. One day you could have a lot, tomorrow you may have very little. So as long as you stay
Yeah,
balanced and humble and true to who you are, I feel like that's uh, very, very powerful, no matter
wow,
what
I
situation.
love that. Yeah, I feel like you just dropped just a value nugget of wealth wisdom one on us. Staying grounded and humble into who you are. Really, because it's not about like the money aspect. It's about like true wealth in self and relationships and others, which is really what transforms and transcends us. And the connection piece that you spoke to, like your stories helped me connect to the universe right now. Like I got my traditional Nigerian clothes, which we talked about that Nigerian connection. It's just my Nigerian friend gave me this water today that says clearly Canadian on it, and she was telling me the story about like how this water came into her life and sharing it with me. And then here I am speaking to you, and you talking about this beautiful Canadian woman who 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 transformed your life. I was like, man, is the universe telling me something right now?
It's time for a trip to Vancouver or to Canada, Toronto, Montreal. Let's go. Let's go. It's perfect. Hey, this is the perfect
Let's
time to
go. Let's
go.
go, Canada.
Like
Really?
summertime is like, oh, have you been before? You've probably been already.
No, I've never been to Well, actually, I've been to Niagara Falls when, back in the day. But that's and I don't know if Canadians would even consider that Canada, or they still consider that like, oh, that's not a Canadian experience. Come a little further out.
That's a good start, though. That's beautiful where you went, though. I've only been once, but when I saw it, it was like insane. It's beautiful.
But, so we'll definitely we'll set that trip up. So now we're in that journey. You're in that next season of meeting and getting to know the different people in the community. What tell me what was next? Like, did you end up starting a program, a nonprofit? What was the next journey and step to growth, and then what did you find in yourself, and what did you start to create?
Yeah, good question. You hit the nail on the head. The good thing about being at the very bottom is there's nowhere to go but up. So
Yeah.
there were so many opportunities that maybe my eyes were closed and for some reason they opened. And when you're in such a low or in a position where you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you don't have anything else or you feel like everything's lost,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, you have everything else to look forward right at your fingertips. And so for me,
Yeah.
that meant that I was no longer afraid to be creative. Like a lot of times I was like, oh, well, this isn't good enough, or this isn't like when I present whatever I have to people, outsiders to see it, it's not going to be taken well because it's not as good as maybe someone else's. What I did learn is like in life in general, just give your best, put 100%, and the people that are supposed to accept it, the people that are supposed to embrace it, they will. It's not, nothing's for everyone. It doesn't have to be for everyone. On the flip side,
Yeah.
whatever you create, if it's something that a small amount of people will be inspired by or appreciate or they'll learn or grow from,
Mm-hmm.
that's good enough. And so I became, probably for the first time ever, I became okay with 100% of who I was. So that meant being willing to
Mm.
start my own nonprofit, and that nonprofit was to support women with mental sickness that maybe have been displaced, that have been homeless. We created opportunity for them to get not only food but necessities that they needed to navigate through life a little bit easier. And I was inspired, of course, by my ex-wife because she was an amazing person. She's a great
Mm.
person, but good
Mm-hmm.
bad things happen to good people. That didn't mean like necessarily we see these
Yeah.
people on the streets. Not all of them are, using drugs. They're not bad people. So for
Mm.
me, I learned a lot from not only her but the people I met, and so I felt obligated to do something. I was no longer in the dark. I had to do something. It wasn't like, oh, you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
That's what I was supposed to do, so that's what I did. So that created kind of the funnel that got me starting to being more creative, taking more, I guess you would say, chances or seeking opportunity to create opportunity for others. And that segues into the
Nice.
entrepreneur life of me starting other things.
Yeah. And then for those who may not be familiar with the journey, give them the name of the nonprofit.
That one is called A Fashion for Philanthropy, and that was mainly in LA.
Mm.
We did that for a
Yeah.
couple years while I was working on a project called Eva L'Amour, which is love backwards and love in French. So the most powerful thing
Mm.
also is love. So I started a clothing line called Eva L'Amour, made with love and inspired by love. And then I wanted some of that proceeds to go to the nonprofit, which is Fashions for Philanthropy, inspired by
Mm-hmm.
my ex. And so that was at the very beginning of my journey. Since then, it's evolved into Cook Casa. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm currently working on now in the project.
Yeah. Right. And we'll talk a little bit more about Casa. But for those who are going to see this visual experience, for those who are just listening, who not doing the visual experience, my man is dapper. He is just black excellence dripping through the screen right now. Very fashionable, and we got to talk about this art piece that's right behind you of this woman, which is just incredible and it's calling to me. Tell me tell me the story behind that art piece. Give me the breakdown because I know there has to be an amazing story to it.
There is, and I try to like thank you again for the compliment. I appreciate it. Everything I'm wearing is also even more. But through that journey, I feel like through the darkness, I eventually rose with the power of prayer, with the power of family and friends that never gave up on me. I was able to get. I wasn't afraid to just be who I was, and that's just a creative individual. And it wasn't for everyone. Like I'm very bright as far as colors. I'm very lively. So the piece you're looking at, of course, it has a lot of color to it. It's very bright. I feel like it's a happy piece, and it's a calling of just
Mm,
joy, love, exciting, suspense. So this piece, I ended up on a trip to Australia for my first time ever. Ran into two individuals.
mm,
This is a long Cliff Note story, but offered me a job. Two random people I never met before. I'm in a restaurant. First day in Australia. I end up taking the job, but a lot of Australians they love to go to Bali. So, and I couldn't stay in
Mm-hmm.
Australia more than, I think it was at the time, 3 months before I had to leave the country. So we go to a
Mm-hmm.
Bali trip for the weekend, and I fell in love with this piece. I'm big into eyes. I don't know why, but her eyes seem so real. I was like, yo, it's halfway scary, halfway creepy, but then halfway kind of nice because it looks like she's just looking into your soul. But fell in love with it as we're walking the streets of
Yeah.
Bali. I was like, I have to have this piece. So ended up getting the piece, but it
Mm-hmm.
was just wrapped up like in a big paper thing like that they gave me. Ended up bringing it back to the States, going to
Mm-hmm.
Mexico and having it framed in Tijuana. And that's how I held that piece for like 2 or 3 years before I framed it. So it had so much
Uh-huh.
meaning because it tied into the Bali trip, the Australia trip, and then finally in
Right.
destination was going to TJ, which holds true to my heart and soul for the art, the
Right.
food, and the music scene in Tijuana to have it framed there and then brought back here to Barrio Logan.
Hey, I love it. I love it. That's a very impactful and an amazing story, and I just love the colors on it too. You're such a creative. I want to know if you could open a store, what would you sell or provide?
If I could open a store, aesthetically, it would be contemporary with splashes of color here and there, but very simple, minimal. And it would be a mix of a bookstore combined that's kind of like a
Uh-huh.
cocktail shop and a wine store all together, where you come there and they do a pairing of the different cocktails, whether it's mezcal, gin, or rum, and they source it and connect it to maybe Jamaica or maybe Bali or
Mm-hmm.
some kind of space or place. They put you in Peru. You're having a drink that you wouldn't normally
Mm,
have, but not only having that, they're also playing the music, all records only, in this very memorable space. I like creating memories, and so that means being intentional.
mm,
So combining uh, the music with the palette and then visuals to complement that,
mm,
all together for an experience. And I love reading, so there has to be books and records there somewhere, all in
ooh.
together. So yeah, it would be
Yo, I love that.
yeah.
If you create that space, I will definitely go. I'm gonna speak that to an existence. Uh, Whoever's listening to this, hit my man Anayo up. VCs, let's get on the phone. Let's create that. Like that's dope. I love that whole
There's a
idea and
space.
concept.
I'm gonna
That
take you. It's called Part Time Lovers in North Park. It just opened
uh huh
a month ago. All they do is spin records, whether it's hip hop, um, house.
uh huh
They mix it up a little bit, but it's very original, and they're not trying to be anyone else other than who they are. So it brings in a different crowd of people when you
uh
feel welcome. If you show up, you're getting in. You know, they take their time with the
mhm,
drinks. They're not overpriced, but they put lots of love into the drinks, and everything is intentional. Ambiance is classy.
right.
You're not in a ratchet spot. It's very classy, and like you feel from the minute you walk in, like you belong there. So, Part
I
Time
love
Lovers,
that. I
North
love
Park,
that.
dope spot.
Shout out to Part Time Lovers. I haven't been yet, but if a Nile says I need to go, I'm a definitely make sure I make some time to go. Hopefully, when we link up, we can go together and then share some more good conversations. As I only imagine we will. Now, I have a
I
feeling that
follow up.
or
I have a quick question for you
s-
because you're very observant. I'm not sleeping on it. So you must be into or have an appreciation to find art or find things. Are you an artist yourself? Are you creative? Oh, I can assume, of course, you're creative, but tell me just a little bit about
say so I am a creative. So funny thing is growing up, I used to draw and paint a lot. But having Nigerian parents, my my Nigerian dad was like, my friend, y'all going to school, y'all going to study the books. What is this art? This is nonsense. Like and so they stifled my art for the longest time. My daughter, who loves to draw, is slowly getting me back into that space that I left behind. Uh, because you know, my Nigerian parents didn't see no value in it, right?
it, right?
And so I kind of got away from it. Um, Funny enough, I just started investing in art again. I got together with a group of folks to invest in was it a Pablo Picasso painting that just was speaking to me. So I'm slowly getting back into like the this podcast is the way I do my artistry now, like through verbally, through communication, and then there's some books that I'm going to be curating to tell the stories of the different individuals I interview, um, to kind of subscribing as Black history in the making, right? Because who's capturing the history being made now by like people like yourself. This is future Black history, and it needs to be acknowledged. The stories need to be told. So I want to create it and craft it in a way that really properly tells that story to the next generation. So yes, it's cool to have the Martin Luther Kings and all that, but what about currently now? That's going to be the Black history of the future. Who's curating and telling that stories? And I don't want these different amazing stories to get lost.
I like that, man. You're paving the path for your kids, and they're the future, man, and opening up doors of opportunity for them to be creative and not to be afraid of expressing themselves in a creative way, whether it's verbally or whether it's through music or maybe it's art. Maybe it's their writing. There's so many
Hmm.
different ways, or maybe it's cooking. Who knows? There's so many different ways to
Hmm.
express yourself, but that's okay. It doesn't. You don't have to be a doctor
Hmm.
or a lawyer to necessarily, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's so many different ways to be creative or maybe even make a living. So I feel that. I like
Hmm.
that.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and and as I look back, like most creatives, all of us have a creative button, but a lot of creatives are inspired by somebody else. They might have a muse. I know you talked a little bit in your journey about how, with at least with the nonprofit, how your wife or your former wife inspired that journey. When you look at some of the things that of how you step into leadership, your growth, your development, and other businesses. Who inspires you most, and what qualities do they possess that inspire
That's a
you?
powerful question and very easy. And there's three. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say. And that's the great thing about like the dialogue and interviews. It's like, and that's where you can get someone to see what they're really like thinking. And I feel like there's nothing better. There's no frequency better vibration than the truth. And one would be God, my mom, and my dad. And that's easy to say, mom, dad, and God, because that's who really inspired me to become the person I am today. And in the sense that for my mom and
Mm,
dad, very loving, kind, hard workers. They're both Black entrepreneurs. They both, at least my father, he came over to go to University of Washington, and he had very little at the time, but he paved the way for all of his family to come over to the States and have their families now. And
mm-hmm,
so it's not just like a story, that's real life. That's what I got to see as a
mm,
leader for me, and being someone that looked out for someone more than just themselves, being someone that got up a little bit earlier, that stayed up a little bit later because that's what they had to do,
mm-hmm.
and did it with a good mindset. And my mom, of course,
Yeah.
growing up in times where things were difficult, as far as like being a person of color, being accepted, and trying to start a business and seeing
Mm-hmm,
the obstacles. These are a lot of things that I sometimes shy away from talking about, but now I'm okay with talking about because it's just so much in her face
mm-hmm.
that it cannot be denied. And I'll get back to that a little bit, but then of
Yeah.
course God, the great architect and creator, everything we sees and thinks and inspired. I'm inspired by each day when I wake up and see different things, meet different people.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's humbling because we're like little ants walking around on this planet,
Yeah.
navigating. But that's my true organic inspiration. And the cool thing is, it's like it's not
Mm-hmm.
ending; it's continuing. Like meeting people like yourself, other creatives, and people that are just so
Yeah.
creative and like, yo, they get it, but they're not afraid to express themselves. I get inspired by that also.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That sounds like you had, uh, you know, uh, amazing people around you that just kept you grounded, helped uplift you. Something that you alluded to I'm glad you're not afraid to have that conversation is like, how tough it is for sometimes Black entrepreneurs and people like your mom. I recently saw a study that saying, Black women are the newest, largest rising group of entrepreneurs, but sadly, they get the least amount of investments, like from venture capitalists and so forth. Um, and some of them remain successful even despite of that, right? Why do you think that is? Like, why does this, especially this group of Black women entrepreneurs, not being invested in and poured into as much? And how do they still, re- you know, remain that grit? Some of them to overcome and still be successful regardless of that. What do you think that attributes to from having that experience with your mom and then what you see and feel?
I'm glad you brought that out, or brought it up, or touched on it more, because it's something that we should be able to talk about because it's real life, right? Like a study that came out recently over the $300 billion in the last 4 years. 2% went to women-owned businesses, and 1% went to Black-owned businesses. That means that if you're a women-owned business,
Hmm.
there's a 98% chance you're not going to get the financing or the funding needed to grow your business, to scale your business. You could have the most like revolutionary idea ever, and just because you're a woman or you're a Black-owned business, that there puts you in the odds of 98% chance you're not going to get the funding you need. And that's just that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fact that each like woman-owned business or a person of color, but it goes so far beyond that, it's almost scary. The positive thing is now they're
Mm-hmm.
starting to acknowledge it. Now we're starting to have this conversation. We're like, okay, this is a bit awkward. We can't sweep it under the rug anymore because it's just so in our face now. Where it's like, okay, why are these intelligent um, Black or women-owned business owners that studies show that women-owned businesses tend to do better than any other business? Why is it so hard for them to get the resources? Why is it so hard for them to get the funding that they need to grow their business? And we know that all stems back to
Mm-hmm.
a few things, but the good thing is places like Techstars, other accelerators, other people start to see like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we need to put together programs that support the funding, that support resources that are going to help build the communities, because there's no reason that they shouldn't have access to what everyone else has access to. Like, there's no reason. And so now people are starting to speak up, like yourself and myself. It's starting to be okay to have these conversations because as soon as we can start talking about this, then things will get better. I think this
Mm-hmm.
is this is exactly the start we need to
Yeah.
start change.
Yeah. Yeah, and I absolutely think so. So like when you started to say that, I was like, ooh, I started to get a little geeked up about it because that's another conversation that really that I get geeked out about and really wanting to learn more. And then figuring that out. One of the nonprofits that I'm a part of, Village Up, really looks at like how to support those underrepresented founders and diverse founders, and what are the resources they need, and how do we create an ecosystem map of all the things and resources they need. It's funny you mentioned Techstars because that's one of the groups when I started, doing equity, diversity, inclusion around San Diego that reached out to me, Techstars and Google, for their Tech Startup Weekend to reach out to the Black and Brown communities to get more people to like startup weekends. Cause they was like, hey, Taryell, usually when we have these events, we try all these different recruiting tactics, but we have such a hard time getting Black and Brown people here. When we do it, like all we get is a bunch of white and Asian people. And so really looking at the strategies that we could do to get diverse communities into those spaces and areas, and transforming those spaces so that people feel welcome to be in those spaces. They feel like those spaces are curated for them, or they have agency in those spaces. They're not just showing up and like, oh, you have no agency here. We invite you, but you stand back on the wall. You don't really have a seat at the table here. We just want we're trying to hit these diversity numbers, right? So how do we co-create spaces that everybody feels like they belong in that space and have agency in that space?
Yeah, big shout out to Techstars,
So,
Google, Amazon, Verizon. They've all come up with programs. Techstars has a new one called Rising Stars, which focuses on
oh,
unrepresented
really?
people, where they look to just invest in those people that haven't had the opportunity. I mean, some of these businesses, they have a beautiful financial model, they have revenue, they have proof that they can scale and grow and maybe 10x investment. Why are these people having to go way
Hmm.
beyond everybody else and still have a hard time getting funding? And so Rising Stars gives these people the opportunity that they never
Hmm.
had. And that's important because these are
Yeah.
businesses that are going to do well. And once they do well, they'll create jobs and opportunity for the rest of the community. Our communities will grow, our cities will grow. It'll build more stability all around. So it's a win-win for everyone. And it's just something that is starting to have more light shined on now. And I see the change already
Hmm.
starting, which is exciting to be a part of that change. I'm actually talking to them now.
Nah.
Techstars, there's some great people over there. And the cool thing is they really want to make a difference. I mean, I'm talking to these people face to face. These aren't
Mm.
just like protocols. Oh, we got to check out the box. Did we, put
Hmm.
10% aside for this community? No, you have people that we can
Hmm.
relate to that are our complexion, that have been through the same adversities
Mm.
and obstacles, helping make the call. So that's the beautiful thing when you have someone you can
Yeah.
relate to that maybe grew up in a neighborhood like you or understands the obstacles or the challenges, and now they're the ones making some of the decisions because they see that something has to be done. And that's what's happening. And it's very exciting times.
Nah. That is exciting. I love it. I didn't even know about that program, so now I'm gonna have to look that up. Thank you for going on that tangent with me too, because that's something I get geeked out about, as you can tell. So, I mean, what do you get geeked out about? Let me get that from you.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Right now, it's always very simple, and that's just creating, like you said yourself, good energy. For me, that comes to music, food, and solving problems, and having the right people surrounded around me. That like to smile, laugh, the creatives that have a good time. But this new project I'm working on is by far the most exciting one that I've done in my life, and it's Casa. The reason why I'm excited about it is just because the simple fact that it does two things. One is create opportunity for countless people, and two, it allows people to do what they love to do and get paid to do it.
Mm. Imagine that, doing what you love to do and getting paid for it. That's something that I tell people all the time because I often do some public speaking, and the young people and adults have limiting beliefs on what they can do and what they can be based on, different notions, whether it was installed by a teacher, a parent, or and they think there's no way I could do what I love and get paid to do it, right? And I'm like, no, do what you love what you do. Don't chase the money, let the money chase you. What I mean by that, when you start working in the energy of the things that you love, that's when the price goes up, because then people want to pay you to do that thing that you do that nobody can do but you, because it's looked at as priceless. You start to bring value in ways that other people can't. So I encourage people to step in and lean into the love of what they want to do and the things that they want to create. So I'm glad that you said that. Um, uh, Go ahead. It looks like you have a thought about that.
No, I'm listening, and that's one thing I've worked on is they say that stress lives either in the past or the future. I'm really working on being present. So while you're speaking, I'm not even like, I'm just 100% listening. Before I used to try to come up, okay, what am I going to say? But that's not being present. Me being present is really focusing on what you're
Mhm.
saying. And that means the doors are open to go any way that it should go, not already having, oh, I'm going to say this, going to say that. No, be present. Like being present helps me be more grateful, which being more grateful helps you lead to being more happy and being more
Mhm.
real. We're in the space we're at right now because we're supposed to be. This is what we work towards. Like maybe one day you could say, I'm going to be in this different space, but if you're living in that space already, you're robbing from this moment.
Mhm.
So I'm really working on embracing the moment, the people I'm with, putting my phone down sometimes when I'm interacting with friends, whether it's a restaurant or we're out wherever, and just embracing the now because we can't get this time back. We'll never have this moment back again.
Yeah.
So let's take advantage of the
Yeah.
moment we have and just go with it, you know?
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Now, tell me, how does Casa work its magic? How does it do what
Great
it
question.
does?
So, Cook Casa, uh, I feel like to give the foundation that we're in a space where people are not all about this generation. It's not just about having the bigger house or the bigger or the nicer car. It's more about creating experiences. It's more about connecting with the people that we love on a larger level. And through food, to me, is I don't know about well, I'd only have to assume from both of our cultures, food is very important. That's the time when we get together, right? Like,
Yes.
and we eat some of our food with our hands, which creates another connection, right? So
Yeah.
like that's powerful. This is where the family comes together. This is where we talk about different things we wouldn't normally talk about at the table over dinner, and we're enjoying this fun food. So it's like food to me is
Mhm.
a passport to any culture. It's a gateway to the bridge to any country through food. So for me, I wanted to
Mhm.
create a way for people to connect on a larger scale. People that normally wouldn't connect, maybe with different cultures,
Mhm.
or maybe thought that having an on-demand experience was too expensive. How do I solve that problem? So we created Cook Casa. So Cook
Mhm.
Casa connects people who love to eat with people who love to cook by basically sending on-demand chefs right to
Mhm.
your location. So no grocery shopping, no cooking, no cleaning. This could
Mhm.
be at just an ordinary dinner you're having with friends and family. This could be at your vacation rental. This could be on a boat, a picnic. It could be, we just signed a
Mhm.
contract with people that are own a private plane company. They want to have some of the chefs come on there. So
Mhm.
it's basically just on-demand chefs. I like to say the Uber of chefs or the Airbnb of cooks because you can have a sommelier, you can have a bartender, or
Mhm.
you can have a cook or a baker show up at any location and create this experience by the push of a button and connect people over one of the most powerful things, which is food.
Nice. I love that. I love that. Now, I know some people are going to hear this episode. They're going to get inspired by your life, your journey, the many different businesses, nonprofits that you've been able to create and be a part of. Now, what's some advice you would give to people who are like inspired by what you've done and want to go out and create an idea of similar to what you've been able to create with, uh, the multiple entrepreneurship pathways you've went into? What steps can they take to kind of, you know, take that idea and help it become something?
That's a great question because a lot of times I listen to podcasts, I love reading books, and then you hear all these stories about, oh, this person slept in their car, or oh, this person, like, how they started the business, what did it take to actually do it? One, everyone has a different path, everyone has a different journey. Your journey or path doesn't have to look like anyone else's but your own. The key thing is being effective. How can you
Mm,
be the most effective at what you do to get results? How can you track those results to make sure you're making progress? So, ways in all these different books, it's like, but how do I do it? Where do I start? How do I go from 0 to 1 or 2? You know, how do I get the momentum going? Fortunately, there's SBDCs, small business development centers, in every single city that's free. There's
mhm,
resources from Google you can connect with, accelerators that you can get in. There's lots of support that we pay our tax dollars for that give us free resources to have people that are going to be advisors that make connections. There's grants. There's so many different resources more now than ever. There's social media. You can have very little and have social media and have something, a business you want to start, and
mhm.
simply go on there. But with all that being said, you have to go out there and do it. We hear the saying, just do it. It's like,
Yeah.
don't wait for that perfect moment or that perfect time. Don't wait till everything aligns. Go out there, and even if it's one sock, you're going to start a clothing brand, but right now you only have a shirt. Sell the shirt, see how many people buy it. Track the people, learn your customers.
Mhm,
Put yourself in those communities around those people
mhm,
that are doing just that. Be honest, be organic, be
mhm.
vulnerable, be driven, be authentic, be impeccable with your word and also your work. And that is a quality in itself that very few are willing to be. have that honesty. And it's okay to be vulnerable because not everybody has it figured out. And if you're one of those people, it's okay to ask
Yeah.
for help to the different people, friends, family, the community. There's tons of resources. People are willing to help as long as you ask. So don't be afraid to ask if you need help, especially if you're like, hey, can you teach me instead of saying, can you give me? If you ask for money, that's one thing. That's going
Mm-hmm.
to be difficult sometimes. But if you ask for help, there's a lot of people that'll lead you through that help. You will get the bag. You will get the money. You'll get the rest of the resources. But just don't give up. Have that mindset that
Yeah.
if you're passionate about something, that's one thing. But have a plan how to execute that passion into dollars. Have a good business plan, a financial model, and kind of a map how to get from point A to point Z. Those are just a few of the things that I feel like
Mm-hmm.
are good starting points. And write it down. There's an 80% chance more if you write something down that it's going to become a reality. It's good to have ideas and thoughts. That's great. But what are you doing with that?
Mm-hmm.
Do something with that. Write it down, have a plan, set goals, and each day be like, hey, if I move forward from yesterday, we should be able to see and calculate or have a graph that
Mm-hmm.
shows, okay, yesterday I connected with 3 people. Now today it's 4 more. Where do those connections lead? So
Mm-hmm.
there should always be a way. They call them KPIs, of course, key performance indicators. But how do we show that's real? How do we calculate that? And having that will definitely go from just kind of a
Mm-hmm.
passionate side, this is fun, this is a hobby, to no, we can turn this hobby into a profession.
Yeah, I love that. Rise Urban Nation. If you didn't catch that gem, like ideas are a dime a dozen, but execution is everything. And so what are you using to take even one small step forward? And what are those KPIs that really help you move the needle on that idea and executing it to the grander vision of what you have. Now, I love what you're doing with uh man, why am I tongue tied right now? I, yeah,
You must be hungry. I got
with
you. I got you.
Casa.
A little
I
past
know,
11,
right?
12 after now, let's keep it real. We need to eat.
uh, it's, I mean, I love the whole concept because I feel like in the past 2 years in COVID, um, what has stayed consistent is people, having experiences with food, even eating healthier. So I think like this whole concept that is making us level up to another way to experience food. Also, if you're transitioning to that healthy eating, I feel like this could be a good way to do that. Like getting a nice chef to come in to help prepare one of your favorite pastimes and a healthier version of it. I don't know. That's where my mind goes with it. But what I wanted to ask you is, what do you think the future has in store for your industry? As I see you being probably a trailblazer in this industry, because I've never heard an Airbnb of cooks until you came on.
Yeah, great question. And I'm with you, man. Health is wealth. When you eat better, you feel better. We only have one body, so why not take care of it? That comes through
Hmm.
food. You connected one word, and that's energy. Energy comes from the food that we eat, man. You want to keep it 100. Food and exercise,
Hmm.
to me, are two critical
Hmm.
things that can really create dynamic, good energy. I mean, who doesn't want good energy? So you would understand that more than
Hmm.
I guess anyone else, in the sense that we have to connect to those things that are going to produce that good energy. We can't just wake up and think it's going to happen on its own in this society because it's not set up for us to
Hmm.
win. It's set up for us to fail. That's why it's so easy to get
Hmm.
crap food. It's accessible to anyone, but we need to be
Hmm.
intentional about what we're eating, what we're thinking, and the way we're moving, how we're exercising to be able to do that. But the future of Casa goes along with that because we want to make that accessible to the people that not only it wasn't before, but to people just in general. I think it's wise for people to have that option to have
Hmm.
access to food from any walk of life at the push of a button. To have that experience of having someone show up at
Hmm.
their location and create these experiences, which are magical, at the push of a button. So far we've had 500 experiences with over 100 chefs.
Hmm.
We're looking to move from just San Diego. We have a few in LA and Orange County, but we want to go to San Francisco. We want to go to Portland. We want to go to Seattle and eventually scale to Australia, of course,
Hmm.
Canada, Europe, and grow because this isn't something like that's new. Like even think of Turo. Turo is a
Hmm.
brilliant concept. We've always had cars and ways
Yeah.
of renting them, right? But they solve problems and make it easy for people like me and you to be able to connect those things. So for Casa, it was like, hey, how do we make this connection
Mm-hmm.
on a global level where we do something we're already doing, eating food? Maybe we'll make it
Mm-hmm.
healthier. Maybe we'll make the connection easier. How do we make it accessible to everyone? We've connected with some culinary schools, which means that now that people are learning how to become professional chefs, they can be on the platform. So that makes that price drop. So
Mm-hmm.
now you can have an immersive dining experience, and it's not going to be an outrageous price because you have some of the people, they're phenomenal cooks already. If they're to cook for any one of us, we do backflips. But the
Mm-hmm.
price isn't going to be as inexpensive as a seasoned chef that's at one of your
Mm-hmm.
favorite restaurants. Now we're giving access to things that we didn't have access to before, which lowers the
Mm-hmm.
price. And that makes it available to everyday people like myself that want to enjoy it. So that's the big picture, just for Casa to make more opportunity for people
Mm-hmm.
worldwide to create fun experiences for people that didn't have before, and continue to bring together people by not only solving
Mm-hmm.
problems but creating more memorable moments and times.
I love that. Love that. And we want to thank you and salute you for creating that and bringing that vision to life for us so we can experience it. Now, I like to keep my episodes what used to be a drive time, and I know we got so much more that we could probably talk about, but we're gonna have to do that at a later date and
Yeah,
time. So why don't we wrap up like this? What current projects are you working on, or what projects are you currently working on, and where can people
you
find
can
you?
find me at, let's see, the official cookcasa.com. You can find me at ANAYO at cookcasa.com. Cookcasa.com is our website, but that's the IG. The official Casa is a IG for us. And those, the main projects, to answer your first part of the question, is I'm keeping it only to a couple projects because that's had me so busy right now. But the other one is Aluna.io. That's the one in Spanish, and that's basically putting NFTs on clothing. I was brought in
Mhm.
as a head designer for that project, and that's been fun. But those are the two, Casa, Aluna, where I'm spending my time, and they're both in the creative fun space. I feel like people, if you give someone the opportunity to do something they love to do, they're going to put more into it, as opposed to if they have something, they have to do it. They have to wake up and go somewhere they don't want to go. Fortunately, I've been blessed to work on projects that I'm super excited about. And so I'm able to put all of my love, all of my like passion into them because I'm super excited, like to stay up late and to wake up early to do all of them.
Anayo, thank you so much for creating projects of love for us to experience, to come together, build connections, whether it be through food, art, clothing. We appreciate you, and for that, we salute you. Any last words of wisdom before the people, before we sign
Definitely.
off?
Thank you again. Big shout out for having this platform for us to chat, for inspiring other people to take chances. The biggest chance is not taking one. And we appreciate you for creating this positive space for us to be
Mm,
organic, authentic, and open. And hopefully, maybe either pave the way for someone else that's been on the fence about making that change, or inspire someone that's already doing it to keep going.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm thankful and grateful as well. Thank you for Rise Urban Nation always tuning in. We appreciate you as well for being here with us. I'm gonna get all the links and show notes and the bio and everything so that you can connect with my brother Anayo, and put it in the show notes for anyone who is driving and didn't get a chance to write things down. So thank you again, and we'll catch you on the
All right,
next
man.
one.
Thank you.